It's 12:03 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM, and time for the Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Your normal host for the program, Carrie Fink, is on assignment for today, but we're delighted to have in studio none other than the very famous, very popular Nancy Deardorff. And Nancy, great to have you here, and I'm sure you're going to do a wonderful job today.
Thank you, John. You said your normal host is Carrie, so I'm the abnormal host.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Thank you so much, John Harper. And this is Nancy Deardorff, your Operations Director with Helping Seniors of Brevard, coming to you live from the studios of WEJF 90.3 FM. And we're so grateful to this station and to John Harper, Jim Votro, Eric, for allowing us to bring this program to you live every week here on Wednesdays at 12 noon to 1 p.m., Helping Seniors of Brevard. So I'm standing in for our Executive Director, Carrie Fink. He is right now sailing the deep blue seas on our Helping Seniors of Brevard Travel Club. And that is a travel club that gives back to helping seniors. And I'm very proud to be representing him, but also representing Helping Seniors of Brevard. So we've had questions over the years. What does Helping Seniors of Brevard do? What are we? Well, we're many things. We're not just one thing, but we provide information, education, advocacy, resources and referrals to seniors that need help in our community, because we believe that knowledge is power, and that is for sure the truth. So how do you get knowledge? Information is knowledge. Knowledge transfers to power, and the more informed you are, the better you are to make informed decisions. So one of the quirky things we like to talk about in Senior Scene magazine and on our website is getting your ducks in a row. That's kind of our mantra, right? What does getting your ducks in a row mean? Well, it's our way of saying to seniors, develop your aging plan and develop it now. What's an aging plan? Very similar to a hurricane plan. So you don't want to be impacted by a hurricane, but if we get alerts in this area, we always prepare for that. So getting your ducks in a row means just that, developing an aging plan that involves, in my opinion, not only a plan A, but a plan B and sometimes a plan C. What does that look like? Well, sometimes, first of all, let me take a step back. How do we do what we do? How do we provide that information, education, advocacy, resources, and referrals? We do it by several different means. Our most popular is our Senior Information Helpline, which is 321-473-7770. It's a free service, and you can call us about a variety of issues, whether it's household, health, legal, financial, or other. For instance, I get calls on a daily basis for somebody who needs a trusted handyman or a contractor that's trusted or an elder care attorney. They need a will or a trust, or they need financial help. All sorts of, it runs from soup to nuts, and there's no subject that is off the table. So if you're out there and you're a senior, and by the way, we consider a senior 50 years or older, which makes me, myself, a senior. I hate to admit that, but I am. Because, and we also help people that are not seniors, by the way, but, excuse me, our specialty is seniors in Brevard County. We also get calls from around the country that somehow people found their way to our phone number, and we will do the best we can to help people. And so the Helping Seniors Helpline, again, 321-473-7770 is the main way we help folks. And yeah, there's times you're going to go to voicemail, which is disappointing. You want to talk to a real human being. But I promise you, if you leave a voicemail, I'm going to call you back personally or my associate Karen, and we're going to lead you to the resources that you need. one of my biggest mantras is, how do you know what you don't know? And the answer is you don't. So I do get callers that sometimes say, I'm calling, but I don't really know what for. Here's the situation. And then we're able to sort of plow through that and say, okay, here's the numbers you need for people that can help you. We also do this through radio, such as this program on WEJF 90.3 FM, every Wednesday, 12 to 1. We also educate and pass the word through our Helping Seniors TV program, which is available on Space Coast Government Television 3 times a day, 5 times a week. And all of this is available and archived. So if you miss a radio show, if you miss our columns in Senior Scene magazine, if you miss our TV show, anything, you can always go to helpingseniorsofbrevard.org and navigate our website, and every single TV, radio, column is archived so that you can bring it up by subject so that we can help you navigate where you need to be. I am so honored and privileged to host this program for Carrie Fink, and I'm so honored and privileged to have 3 special guests with me today. Those guests are Jital Patel. Hey, Jital.
Hi, Nancy.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. And Jital, you are the owner and operator of Coastal Occupational Therapy.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I have alongside you your business manager, Susan Houts, also with Coastal Occupational Therapy. Hi there, Susan.
Hi, Nancy.
How are you?
I am doing fabulously. Thank you so much for having us with you today.
Thank you. Good to have you. And then first-time radio guest is Janice Moia. And Janice, you're with Rock Steady Boxing, right?
That's correct.
So we're going to be delving into occupational therapy, Parkinson's, rock steady boxing. I want to talk about all of that. I do feel like before we sort of get to chatting that I want to thank the public for our latest Helping Seniors of Brevard fundraiser, which is our car raffle. Everybody knows. I mean, it's a fun social event, but let's get down to it. When it comes down to brass tack, it's a fundraiser. We are the cheapest way you can get into that museum, and I'm so proud to say that we had a record year. We're still tallying the financials. We will make that public as we are a volunteer organization, but we exceeded last year, which was also a record. So we're so happy because the more we get support through sponsors and donors, the more we're able to help seniors of Brevard with a variety of issues. So thank you to my panelists today. So happy to have you with us. So I'd like to start off with Jital and Susan, and this is a casual conversation, so nothing formal, but I do have a question. So Coastal Occupational Therapy, Jital, I'll probably let you answer this. There's a lot of confusion between physical therapy and occupational therapy. So what is occupational therapy, and how does it differ from physical therapy?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy. And I love answering this question because there's always, like you said, the misconception, like a misunderstanding of what's what. So the way I describe occupational therapy is it's just right in the word. It's the occupation. The occupations that you do from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed, right? So the occupational therapist, what we do is that we evaluate a person's abilities and limitations with their activities of daily living. So we've heard your activities of daily living, your ADLs, right? So that's exactly what your occupations
Can
are.
I interrupt you, Jital?
Yes.
Us in the, I spent 33 years working as a nurse. So can you explain ADLs? Because those of us in the healthcare community often use the terms that we're used to, but I'm not sure our listeners know what an ADL is.
That's right. Yeah, I get that a lot from a lot of our patients throughout the county as well. They'll say, well, I don't know what an ADL is, but I have a therapist working with me. Your ADLs are your activities of daily living. So that includes anything from showering, being able to eat, dressing, transferring in and out of your bed, on and off your toilet, even getting in and out of your car. So that's your activities of daily living. And then in the profession of OT, we also have the instrumental activities of daily living. And those are your bigger picture activities. So your ability to go shopping, driving is an IADL, which we also address at Coastal Occupational Therapy with our drivability program. But your IADLs are all of that: showering, bathing, being able to eat, your balance, working on your strength, because if you have all of those limitations, you're not able to be independent with your ADLs. And so what OT does is just that. We help individuals regain their ability to be independent with these ADLs.
So to me, what you're saying is that occupational therapy is all those things that we do in the morning and at night, getting up, getting your day going, and throughout the day.
And throughout the day, exactly.
And throughout the day, that we take for granted because we're just so used to getting up, getting changed, getting a shower, brushing our teeth, which with some disease conditions can become very difficult for folks, right?
Absolutely. And, as an example, say someone has a stroke, right? A right-sided stroke, and you're now not able to use your right extremity if you're right dominant, and you can't brush your teeth, you can't brush your hair, and, cooking, all sorts of activities that you do. How do you now go about doing that? How do you maintain your independence with having such a limitation? And it doesn't even have to be something not serious. Say if it's a shoulder pain, arthritis, and that limits you from moving to your full range of motion. You can't reach up on your cabinets. You can't carry heavy things, even a gallon of milk. Those are all your activities. Those are all your activities of daily living. And OTs can go in there and really help you either adjust your environment, get your range of motion or your strength back, and maybe provide you with some adaptive equipment to help you stay independent.
And you say OTs, which means?
Occupational therapist.
There you go. All right. So, Susan, I want to ask you, working alongside Jital with Coastal Occupational Therapy, what are some of the kind of calls that you get for people needing help?
It has been a very interesting experience with occupational therapy. I'm really glad you asked that question of Jital as well. When I first started working with Jital, my first thought was, we're dealing with people who need a job, because you think of occupation, right?
Right.
So the calls that I get range from everywhere, as Jital mentioned, to I've had a shoulder surgery, so I'm not able to, again, drive as well. Because you need all of your extremities to drive effectively, to be able to turn your head all the way, to see, behind you, all the way through to, as we'll talk to Janice about in a minute, my mom has beginning stages of Parkinson's. So how do we continue to help her be able to go through her day with her strength and balance, to be able to function for as long as possible? And it's been really great to watch Jital and our team go into the homes and facilities where our clients are, which is the really exciting thing about Coastal Occupational Therapy being a mobile therapist facility or practice, because we go into the home and to see them improve and to see the really ADL, as we talked about, the activities of daily living, not just the minute improvement in one area, but just the overall quality of life. In fact, we just spoke to a client yesterday or last week who we've been seeing for a couple weeks. And she just said, number one, she said, I just love Jital's spirit. She makes it fun. She said it's challenging, but she makes it fun. And it lets me do things like get up and do my laundry, put my dishes away.
Who would ever have thunk that getting up and doing your laundry was a fun a fun thing and accomplishment,
right? Accomplishment, right? And before,
you don't know what you have until you lose it.
Until you don't have it, exactly. And the thing that touched my heart the most is that she said to put her dishes away, to put the dirty dishes in, and at the end she said, and just to be me, because you lose those kind of things, and we all know. Motion begets motion, and inertia. When you stop moving, it's hard to get moving again. So that's why our tagline is #keep life moving, right? That's what occupational therapists I have learned is there to do, is to keep you moving, and we all need that. So my theme that I'm having for us for next year is OT is for everyone, because we all can use improvement in every area of our life. I have looked at my life completely differently now in terms of movement and positioning and how I sit, and every ache and pain, and kind of go, well, what am I doing to kind of create that? Because there's a lot that has to do with ergonomics and
well, and inertia.
And all sorts of things.
Jital or Susan, whoever wants to respond, inertia hurts. I mean, when
It
you
does.
have somebody laying in a bed that's not doing anything, that's painful.
Absolutely. You know, when a lot of times people end up in the hospital and they're there for such a long time, they're not allowed to get out of the bed, the alarms are ringing, your muscles start atrophying. It doesn't take that long. And then just to get going, everything hurts. Your back is tight, your shoulders are hurting, and just getting that first step on the ground, it's a big hurdle. But that's where the therapists come in, and and not just OT, as physical therapists as well. And they're, as a team, it's such a key to be able to utilize both the services to make sure that our you as a client, that you're able to stay independent, you're able to regain your strength and balance and be able to walk and just keep going. Sometimes a lot of our clients they just love the fact that we're there 2 to 3 times a week. We're in the house and we're able to utilize
It's a little bit social.
Absolutely. We can sit and chat while I get them to, again, like Susan said, put the dishes away. So we're participating in their home, with their home environment, the tasks that they do every day. And, again, making it fun, and also helping them recognize that this is how you can make the house safe for you, and you can be safe, to live in the house.
Well, I love that. And I love the fact that not only do you have extensive training, those of us that haven't been through that will never understand, but there's also a social aspect to it. You're visiting people. And the thing I didn't say, folks, to our listeners that I want to make very clear is Coastal Occupational Therapy comes to you. They're a mobile occupational therapy services organization. And you guys, Jital, talk to me a little bit more about that, and then how it's paid for. Who covers it? And how long does it get to take started? Does somebody have to be in the hospital first before they call you? How does someone qualify? How do they pay for it? And how do they get started with Coastal Occupational Therapy?
Sure. So Coastal Occupational Therapy, like Nancy said, we are mobile, which means that we do go throughout Brevard County, wherever you're located, whether you're in the house, assisted, independent living facility. So we provide the therapy right there at your doorstep. So usually we do get referrals from the doctors. Now, if you did not have a referral, that doesn't stop you from initiating the therapy services, because Florida is a direct access state. What that means is if you know that you need therapy, whether it's whether weakness or balance, or your neighbor, your mom or dad, you can call us directly and say, hey, this is what's going on. Are you able to provide therapy? And then we initiate everything after that. And what that means is we will call your PCP. We can get all the information. We check your insurance information as well to make sure that you have the eligibility and the therapy benefits. And then we go ahead and directly schedule you. Now, in terms of what's covered or how do you pay for it, we can take private clients if that's, insurance wasn't an option. But with insurance, if you have Medicare under Part B, it will be covered under your insurance. So we are credentialed with Medicare, United Healthcare, Oscar, and we take all PPO plans as well.
Well, that's great to know. So if I'm our listener out there and I think I could benefit from occupational therapy, but my doctor has not suggested it, I could just call you?
Yes, you can.
And you'll get the ball rolling.
Yes, Susan will get the ball rolling, yes.
Okay. So how would people get in touch with you, Jital?
They can reach us at 321-361-8040.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I want to delve in a little bit more to occupational therapy, because we talked about the differences between physical therapy and occupational therapy. But for our listeners out there that aren't medical or have had no experience to this, what are the types of issues, disease process, functionality issues that you guys can help with?
So recently we've been noticing, especially as the seasons roll around, we notice a lot of calls saying falls, right? Fall and balance is one of the biggest things. Whether you notice your loved one has, difficulty walking and functioning inside the house, and that can result in going from the garage, getting their groceries, and being able to put them away or not. We do see a lot of ailments for the upper body, so the arthritis, shoulder pain, neck pain, lower back pain. We do see a lot of that because all of just the pain in itself. If you're having that much pain and you can't get out of bed, you're not functioning, and then over time,
well, you're not living.
You're not living
life.
And there's a lot of the social activity that decreases. You're not going out anymore. You're not able to participate in bunko, bingo, things like that. And then there's a lot of depression that kind of sets in. So, we actually, one time we did get a call from a family member that said, my mom's been at home since COVID. Other family members don't live nearby, and she just has stopped going out, stopped even walking her dog. So can you guys go in? And that, when you think about that, it sounds like,
can you help people?
Can you help with that? Right.
So if somebody stopped walking their dog and they need tips to walk their dog safely, is that something you guys can do?
Absolutely. It's an occupation, right? It's an occupation. It is, yeah. It's a daily activity that you would be performing, and for whatever reason you're not able to, and that's your occupation, and that's our goal that we're going to be working towards. So when we do our evaluation with a lot of clients, and even if you called and said, hey, this is the problem that I'm having, like say go back with the not being able to walk the dog, but we do a holistic approach for the evaluation. We go in and we evaluate not just you from head to toe, but also your entire environment that you're living in. So it could be that, well, you can't bend down to get your doggy bowl, put water or food in it. How can we modify that? There's a lot of clutter around the house, and there's all these little things that we pick up on while we're in the home, which is why, again, I've started the practice doing it at home, because utilizing the home environment, what other way to keep someone independent, while you're in the house and you're checking everything out to make sure that it's safe for them. But right. Yes, that's absolutely, we can do that.
Well, that's so good to know. And I just think there's a huge learning gap for our public, not understanding. People tend to understand physical therapy more than they understand occupational therapy. So you've just cleared that up. It sounds like you can do pretty much what a physical therapist does.
And more. Absolutely.
And more.
I say more because, again, it's your occupations, right? And with physical therapy, and I'll let Janice clear that too, so I'm not overstepping, but you're able to walk and you've got great balance, and now you've got to go out. You have to go back out and shop and, maybe go do your laundry or go visit a friend, and that requires a lot of that day-to-day functioning, the day-to-day tasks. And that's when the OT can step in and say, all right, let's go from here and figure out how you're going to go to Publix, figure out how you're going to reach above on all those shelves to get whatever you're getting, or, down on those lower shelves. And that becomes your occupation. Now you bring that home. How are you getting your groceries from the car to inside? And then how are you going to cook? So, all of that occupation. So think of it just like that to all our listeners. Any sort of occupation that you have difficulty performing, whether it's from a stroke, whether it's from arthritis, post-surgery, but any limitation that you have during the day doing any sort of activity, that's when you would call an occupational therapist.
I mean, Jital, it's amazing to me because, and Susan, it sounds like all of the things that we just do on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis that we take for granted. I mean, reaching up in our cabinet to get a can of soup.
It really is incredible. And you just realize how delicate life is at that point, but then also the resources that are out there, like our occupational therapists, like Rock Steady Boxing, like Helping Seniors of Brevard, right? There's a world of resources out there for us that often we don't know we need until we need them. So it's like you said at the top of the show, Nancy, that we don't know what we don't know until we need it. That is so
true.
And so it's for everyone who's listening, the best thing we can ask is to share the resources that you're hearing here with other people, because that's also how we find new clients, because someone has a good experience with us and shares it with someone else who is in need, and then that's how the healing spreads. Thank
you, Susan, so much. And so Susan and Jital, If somebody is not sure if they qualify for occupational therapy, if they're not sure if they can afford it, again, how would they reach you?
Please call me. I'll be the one answering the phone.
Yeah.
And it's 321-361-8040. And we will talk to you. We'll find out a little bit about what you need, and we will process that paperwork for you, and then we'll get you started.
Thank you. And this is Nancy Deardorff, your host in for Carrie Fink. Coming up in the next half of Helping Seniors of Brevard is Janice Moia with Rock Steady Boxing. Stay tuned.
12:34 now in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. Everybody's dancing in the studio. It's kind of neat to watch. Everybody loves that music, Nancy Deardorff.
Well, you know what? I was always told I was an old soul, and I really love that music. I really love that era.
Well, it was a great era for music,
Yes, it
and
was.
it still holds up through the test of time. So that's pretty cool. We
It
all
does
like it.
indeed, John Harper.
It was neat on this side of the glass to see all of you kind of dancing in your chairs. That was kind of cool. But anyway, let's get back to this afternoon's show. Nancy Deardorff is our host for today. Carrie Fink is on assignment, a very nice assignment. And we'll get back to the program, Nancy. Good conversation here in the first half hour.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you and Jim and Eric and all of those at WEJF 90.3 FM who makes this show possible. So welcome to the second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard Radio. And I'm very proud and very excited to introduce a new guest who's a first-time radio panelist, and it's Janice Moia with Rock Steady Boxing. Good afternoon. I wanted to make sure it was good afternoon, Janice. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
So this is your first time on the radio, and I want to talk about Rock Steady Boxing. But before we get into Rock Steady Boxing, I want to talk about you. What do you do? What is your credentials? I mean, where do you come from? Tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners can learn about you.
Okay. So I began as a physical therapist assistant over 20 years ago. I decided to go back to school when my kids were a little older. I did that for over 20 years and retired from it. And then that was 7 years ago. So I graduated from PTA school. I worked for 20 years, and then I retired, and I started to do my own business, which was just personal training, because I can't do physical therapy because I have to be a physical therapist, and I'm just a physical therapist assistant. So I did that for a couple years, and I started to get all these Parkinson's patients, and they're like, have you heard about Rock Steady? And I said, no, I don't box. I don't know what that's all about. So I looked into it and thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And so I ended up going up to Indianapolis, did the 2.5 day training, and just was so moved. It was so amazing. It was just awesome. So came home and started up my business. I had 4 clients.
When did you start your business?
In 2018,
Okay.
in April of 2018. And I had 4 clients, and they were the people that were coming to me beforehand, doing the personal training. And
right.
What I did was I called all my physical therapist friends and said, hey, if you've got people that their insurance is done and you think they still need a little bit more physical therapy, I can do it as a personal training. And they all, they'd have to have the agreement of the client as well. So that's what I did. And it was amazing because it just kept me busy. And it was, I still got to do my physical therapy. I didn't have to write notes. I didn't have to do manual therapy. So that was kind of a plus and a bonus.
Not having
for me.
to write notes as a former nurse, I can tell you, is a blessing, right?
That's a huge blessing.
You can just get down to brass tacks.
Especially when it comes to Medicare.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I have a couple family members that had Parkinson's. I had an aunt with Parkinson's who had, I'm going to sound a little naive, but the shaky kind, right? But more recently, my brother-in-law, who passed away in 2020, he had Parkinson's. He had no shakes. He had no shakes at all. And we didn't really, even as a nurse, I didn't understand what was going on. He had the, I don't want to say inability, but difficulty initiating movement which is a sign of Parkinson's. So can you tell our listeners, what is Parkinson's? That's my first question. And then what are some of the earlier signs of Parkinson's that people should look out for?
Okay, I'm going to answer the second one first,
Okay.
just because it kind of falls the other way around. So basically what people start noticing is the family members will notice, your one arm isn't moving when you walk. So that arm movement kind of stops. Their handwriting starts to get really small, or they're slow to answer a question, or they what they call pill rolling is like they have a little pill in their finger between their pointer and their thumb, and they just roll that pill, that imaginary pill. That's what my dad had. My dad also had Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And that was one of his first symptoms. And back then I wasn't a PTA, so I had no clue what was going on. So,
well, Janice, I'm a nurse, and I had no clue when it came to my brother-in-law. So sometimes we're so close we can't see what's right in front of us, right?
Yeah, and basically, those are just and a lot of them lose their sense of smell without even realizing it.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah, the majority of my group does not smell. So
that's interesting.
But
I
they
did
can
not
still
know
taste
that.
pretty well.
Okay.
So they and then as it goes on, so they say now there's up to I think at the last number I heard on the APDA, which is the American Parkinson's Disease Association, was 32 symptoms, and so you could have 5. Jital here could have 6 or 7, totally different, and then Susan could have 3 of Jital's, 2 of yours, 1 of mine, and then 2 of her own.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It just doesn't. That's why they say when you meet one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's, because no 2 people are the same.
That makes sense. So, Janice, do they have any idea of what causes Parkinson's?
They go back and forth with. Now there's a big thing out there about the pesticides.
Yeah.
And I do have, when you ask your people, when they come in, I ask them all the time, what was your occupation? Where did you grow up? A lot of them grew up on farms, or they grew up near, which is up in the upper states where they do all the
that's interesting
manufacturing,
all
the fumes and that kind of thing. But then, you've got that person who's not lived on a farm, has had perfect health their whole life, never did anything to put any kind of bad stuff into their bodies, and they end up with Parkinson's. So,
well, I think a lot of example for some of our listeners that's probably the most famous is Muhammad Ali.
right.
That was Parkinson's, right?
Yes.
Was that due to his multiple head blows?
That's something that's one thing people will say. So there's really not a distinctive, you get Parkinson's because you did this, this, and this, or because you didn't do this, this, or this.
Right.
There's really no set, groundwork for who gets it and who doesn't, and now they're saying, there's a possibility there might be some genetic links. My dad was the 10th child of, number 10 of 10, and he had 2 older brothers that had it. So, they all grew up on the farm.
and scary.
It is.
So I think we would be remiss without, if we didn't mention Michael J. Fox. So, I mean, everybody's going to say it all comes back to money. Well, that may be true as far as caregiving, but what do you think? I know you don't know him personally, unless you do. I don't. What do you think he did? Because to me, as somebody who practiced nursing, he's pretty extraordinary that he's still functioning somewhat. What did he do that contributed to his longevity and his ability to work through, I don't want to say overcome because he's still dealing with it, but the Parkinson's symptoms?
So that's even a misconception. Like Michael J. Fox, look at him, how great he's doing. But I've got people in my gym that have had it over 20-something years, and they're still driving their cars.
Okay.
They're still getting around, and doing things that most people people think, Parkinson's, you're going to walk into my gym, and they're going to be sitting in chairs passing a balloon around or something. It's
right.
Nothing like that. I mean, and that's where... when people are getting diagnosed, they're like, "Oh my gosh, my life is over." Well, it's not over,
right.
And Parkinson's doesn't kill you. It's you get other things that stop you from that will eventually make you not make you die, but why you die. So
right. And I understand that. I mean, people always say, "What kills you?" Well, it's not the dementia, it's not the Parkinson's, it's not the multiple sclerosis. usually people die of a heart attack or pneumonia, sadly. So I want to switch now to more positive note. We kind of took a downturn into, sad territory. So for those with Parkinson's, what is Rock Steady Boxing? How does it work? And why does it help those with Parkinson's?
So Rock Steady Boxing was developed 17 years ago by a guy named Scott Newman. He was diagnosed at 40 with a disease, and he was very depressed. He was a state prosecutor up in Indianapolis, and he was very depressed. So his buddy who owned a boxing gym, said, why don't you come on in and start hitting a bag? So he went in and actually started training like a boxer, doing the agility work and, not just boxing, but doing all the strength training and moving and just using his whole body and learning how to be light on his feet. And he ended up having some of his symptoms decrease, like his handwriting improved. He was thinking clearer. He was using his hands more. He wasn't as stiff. He was able to go back out and ride his bike again. Those kinds of things.
That's amazing.
So he started this, got a boxer.
Totally accidentally.
Accidentally, yep. So he's like, he's onto something here. So they started a young onset, which is when I think it's before 50, that when you get Parkinson's. 55, I think is now. They keep changing it, but so they they started with just the young onset, and then they moved on to everybody, and they did that for over 6 years. And then people were like, we want to do this everywhere. People were finding out about it, that they would come visit, or their family members would say, hey, they have this thing here. So that's when they started doing all the affiliations, and that's how there's over 900 affiliations in the world.
That's amazing. So Janice, where is your center located at?
I'm located on 2176 Sarno Road, Suite 102. That's on the corner of Sarno and Croton.
Okay. And if somebody wanted to inquire with you or your staff, what number would they reach out to find more about if Rock Steady Boxing is right for them?
It's 321-693-9246. And when I get that call, I usually just say, I can sit here, I tell them a little bit about the program, but I say, the best thing for you to do is come in here, watch a class, and talk to the folks, because I can tell you what it is, but until you see it and you talk to other people that are experiencing it, it's kind of hard to understand what it is, because people think that it's so different than what they're thinking in their head, like boxing class. Oh, it's not. So
that's pretty awesome that you offer somebody to come in for free. So a consultation is free, and they can come in and watch someone if they feel intimidated. And then Susan and Jital, I think, wanted to chime in on Rock Steady Boxing.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to jump in real quick. We did have a chance to go speak to a group, one of Janice's groups, and I did talk to one of the participants. And besides just the physical benefits that they experience that she told me about, with the connection of the body and the mind and the response time, the confidence, Janice, that your class gives the participants, as it was explained to me, is amazing. Also, the support group that is offered, one of the other clients said that, as Janice was saying, everybody has a different experience with Parkinson's, and they have symptoms that a lot of folks who don't have Parkinson's don't understand, so they feel a little awkward. That socialization kind of happens again, where they don't really want to sometimes be around other people who don't have those symptoms because they don't understand. So what they love about Rock Steady is not just the actual physical benefits that the class brings, but the confidence. You're punching a bag. I saw the class. They were punching harder than I do. I haven't punched a bag that hard. I was amazed. They were fast. They were going. But also that camaraderie of they didn't have to feel isolated at all because of any of the symptoms they had or any flags, and they thought that was pretty cool. So that's why we were so excited when we went to talk to them.
Well, it's social, and then right. I imagine you're connecting with people that are going through the same thing as you are, so it's sort of kind of removes that isolation that people feel. And listen, folks, spending as many years in nursing as I should, or as I did, I can say all day long, you shouldn't be embarrassed if you're incontinent. You shouldn't be embarrassed if you can't move right. You shouldn't be embarrassed if you can't speak right. But I could say that till kingdom come. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't help someone that's going through that because they are embarrassed. They shouldn't be. I get that. They shouldn't be. But they don't want to show the world their disability if they feel unable to keep up in social situations. So I love the idea of Rocksteady Boxing as not only being physical therapy, but to me it's mind therapy, emotional therapy, spiritual therapy. It's kind of everything converged together. Is it not, Janice?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought that up because the camaraderie part is just over the top. They come in, with, I tell each and every one of them, everybody walk through that door the first time. Sorry. Everybody walked through that door the first time scared just like you. And the Parkinson's having my father had Parkinson's, and he didn't want to go out anymore. He shook too much. He'd spill his food, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And now these people sit together, they eat together, they talk, they go out to lunch the first Friday of every month. They just socialize together, and some of them go out to dinner on different days, and they become family.
It means the world. It really does. And there's more and more studies on social connection that has more to do with our well-being, overall well-being, than you can imagine. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I wanted to bring in. I wanted to ask John Harper, longtime friend of Helping Seniors of Brevard. John Harper is also our vice president of Helping Seniors of Brevard, an amazing radio person. John, not only did I want to thank you for all the public service announcements that you did for our car raffle and your years and years of service of dedication to Helping Seniors of Brevard, but being somebody who's been with us for years and listening to this discussion, do you have any particular questions or comments regarding occupational therapy or Parkinson's or Rocksteady Boxing? And before I hand the mic over to you, I want to also kind of pay memoriam to your brother Vern. He was a lovely person, and I miss him. And you guys were identical twins. When I first met you, I did not know they were identical twins. So that plays tricks on the mind. And I realized that John sometimes looked different. And then that was at the very beginning, over 20 years ago. And then I realized they were twin brothers. So God bless Vern. So John Harper, thank you for all you do for Helping Seniors. Can you chime in any questions that you have?
First of all, Nancy, you're doing a great job here this afternoon. Very good, and you've really polished your skills and come a long way.
Boy, thank you.
So doing a great job. Fascinating discussion here this afternoon with the ladies. With the Rocksteady Boxing, Janice, do other types of diseases come into play with Rocksteady Boxing, MS, or anything like that?
No, we'd have what we call Parkinsonisms. You have to be under the Parkinson's umbrella. Just because of, like we were talking about earlier, they feel so different than any other disease, but, and they have a lot of that fear of being around other people and just not people looking at them funny or whatever. So, no, it's just strictly Parkinson's people, and that's just how they started the program, and it seems to really work.
How about with the situation with Parkinson's? Does Rocksteady Boxing help with balance, or is that something that our friends with Occupational Therapy would be involved with?
Well, actually, boxing itself, you need balance to do that. And then we, once we get done boxing, we take the gloves off and we do a circuit. So it's not just boxing the entire time. It's another 30, 40 minutes of 10 to 15 stations of balance. We do a lot of balance work as well. We do a lot of strengthening. We do ADL stuff, practicing mock, getting in and out of cars, which they just love. And just a lot of different, and then strengthening, of course, and cardio and your basic core work. And so they're getting a full body workout every time they come.
So it seems like, as you mentioned, Janice, a full body workout. with Rocksteady Boxing. This is something that prior to this becoming a program that people could become involved with, they were kind of destined to just letting the disease take its course.
Basically, they were told to sit home and get your affairs in order.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Yep.
But what's one of the success stories that comes to your mind that you can share with us?
That would have to be, I'm not going to say her name, but that would have to be one of my clients. She was one of my very first clients, and when she came to me, she used a cane, and she just walked very slowly, and she couldn't hardly get in and out of the car by herself, and she now dances around my gym. She jogs. She is a huge influence to everyone, and it's just been amazing.
That's awesome story. I love that story. Hey, Jim.
Hi.
How are you?
I got a question.
Yeah.
What about MS? There's a lot of people with. I'm hearing that there's a lot of elder onset MS, and people really don't realize that until they have like a.
That might be a Jital question.
Yeah,
Jital?
that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, absolutely. We do currently have a few clients that do have MS, and we actually spoke to the MS support group a few months ago over at COCO, and just trying to get to understand, what's going on, how the disease manifests, and being mobile, that we are able to go to their houses. But MS will manifest unilaterally, meaning on one side of the body sometimes, and people will go into remission a lot, or a lot of times, you just don't have, you have the symptoms, and then you're just kind of status quo for a very, very long time. But that, you think of it this way, where if you have the one side, your left or right side, arm and leg, muscle atrophy, meaning a lot of weakness, and then a lot of imbalance as well, but you're still staying at home. And if you can't drive, now all your activities are being affected, right? How are you getting in and out of your bed if you have one side of your body completely weak? You're also losing that range of motion. To go back, and what I mean about muscle atrophy is your muscles start to lose not only just the muscle mass, but along with, getting weaker. So the size of your muscle, literally, it's really getting smaller, and with that, the weakness sets in, the range of motion sets into your big joints. You're not able to support yourself in standing. So all of that, how are you functioning? So as a OT program, and when we go see MS clients, is that working from bottom up, working on their strength, working on their balance, and providing them the equipment if they need any to able to function, keep functioning, and especially driving too. A lot of times people will think, with Parkinson's, we actually spoke with Janice's group as well. There's a misconception where people will say, well, I've got Parkinson's or MS, and, I've had a stroke, and now I can no longer drive because of all these symptoms that I have. There may be the case for certain people, but there are a lot of different options available. Technology has advanced that, you can drive with your arm if you're able to, with your left side, your left hand, and you're able to use, the accelerator and brake. There's lots of technologies available that do help the person stay as independent as possible, not just within the house, but even outside. So they can get in the car and go to Janice's Rocksteady class.
Jital, thank you. Yeah, John.
Nancy, fascinating discussion today with all three of your guests, and one that is especially important in that it gives hope to someone listening to us that there are areas that they can contact, people they can contact, such as our guests.
Yes, John.
And if they can give out their information right now. Yes. This is just fascinating.
Yes, so to wrap it up, we only have a few minutes left, so I want to thank so much my panelists, Jital Patel and Susan Houts from Coastal Occupational Therapy, Janice Moia with Rocksteady Boxing. Let's go to Coastal. How do people reach you?
Please call us. So I will be answering the phone. So if you have any questions about occupational therapy, please reach out to us at 321-361-8040. And you can find us online at coastaltherapyfl.com.
And Janice, how do people reach you if they want to talk to you and learn more about Rocksteady Boxing?
Okay, so you can reach me at 321-693-9246. And just to clarify, I'm Rocksteady Boxing at Advanced Fitness in Melbourne, Florida.
And this is Nancy Deardorff in for Carrie Fink, your host for today's radio show at Helping Seniors of Brevard. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to WEJF 90.3 FM.